Hi, today let's talk about the right way to teach and learn spec tennis and tennis. Many instructors go about teaching the wrong way. How many times have you seen a tennis pro start out with a beginning player working on their forehand and start feeding them balls from the baseline, asking them to make a loop or a letter C with their backswing, and then swing from low to high and finish over the shoulder? It happens all the time. Why is this wrong? It's a backwards approach. The player is learning how to swing like Roger Federer or Serena Williams, but they haven't demonstrated that they can control the ball or have any sort of sending and receiving skills. The student may end up developing a nice swing over time, but they don't know how to play the game. If they can't hit a ball consistently to a target area, they will get beat when they play a match, no matter how beautiful their swing is. It will also be frustrating for that player for a long time because they won't be able to rally. Especially with the kids, the burnout rate gets high because they can have fun playing other sports where they have success right away. If you talk to any long-time spec or tennis player, I'm sure they can tell you a story of a time they played against a pusher who beat them even though their strokes didn't look good and they didn't run fast, etc. This is because the pusher had control and could consistently put the ball where they wanted. Eventually the opponent would miss because even though their technique may have been better, they had no control or feel. Spec tennis and tennis need to be taught through progressions. Start simple and then make it more complex as needed. Math is a great example. You need to learn how to add and subtract before you learn how to multiply or do calculus, right? Spec tennis and tennis are the same way. So the right way to teach is to start the student off with a very simple swing. When I start a beginning student, I have them attempt to rally with me from very close to the net, but don't tell them how to swing. Most of the time they take a big swing and can't do it, so I ask them to open the racket and paddle face and tap the ball back to me over the net from a very close distance. I work on this until they can rally 10 times in a row with me. Then I progress them to being able to do this cross court. I always mention where their target is because that's always the most important goal. If you use this approach, they are learning tactics without even thinking about it. If they can't hit to the target area, then I ask them to make adjustments on their technique to be able to do so. Then we move on to the backhand with the same progression, and then we move back further from the net and try to do the same thing. If they struggle with any one of these progressions, even after the corrective techniques, I may add in a regression, such as before they hit the ball back to me, they have to tap the ball up to themselves before sending it back over the net. Let's fast forward now to the player being able to control the ball with me from close proximity and also from the baseline and be able to consistently hit to a cross-court target area. Most instructors would have already introduced topspin by this stage, but it's not time for that yet. The next thing I'll test is to see if the player can hit deep. When they try this test, most of the time they hit too low over the net so the ball doesn't go deep. So they swing harder and their accuracy goes down. So I show them how to hit the ball high. Again, using an open paddle and taking a bit more swing than they were when rallying from closer to the net. Once they can hit deep cross-court consistently, I will no longer hit the ball right to them, but make them move to each shot and recover properly. So again, we're going from simple to complex. Now the student is able to actually play the game. They can play a match and win at the lower levels. They can go out with their peers and be able to rally without spraying the ball all over the place. When does this player need to learn topspin or how to slice? Well, they've already learned a very basic slice, since when you hit the ball with your paddle open, you generate backspin most of the time. They will need to learn topspin when they reach a level where their tactic of hitting slow, high, and cross court no longer works because their opponent is able to attack them. When they reach that point, their tactical goal might change from being able to hit cross court and deep to doing the same thing but with pace. When you add pace to the ball, you will also need to add spin to keep it in the court. So that's when I'll introduce the top spin, and to learn that, the player will begin to take bigger swings. Learning how to control the ball first also has more benefits. Number one, the player gets more comfortable with a continental grip, which can be used for the majority of shots in spec and tennis, including a forehand slice, a volley, an overhead, and often the two-handed topspin backhand. If the player starts out with a topspin forehand grip, they often never get comfortable with the continental grip later and struggle with a lot of situations. And number two, even if your player reaches a high level, they will always need to revert back to blocking the ball when in defensive situations. When I play and my opponent puts me under pressure, I know that I have the ability to take less swing and just put the ball back in play rather than being stuck taking the same kind of swing each time. I could talk for about an hour about all the progressions I would go through with my beginning player, but to keep this video on the shorter side, I won't go too in depth. Feel free to reach out to me though at SpecTennis@yahoo.com if you'd like more information on these progressions or would just like to pick my brain. Thanks.